Want me to be Eenie? Do you want me to be Eenie?
I'll be Eenie. I'll be Eenie.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. My mother says to pick this one, and out goes Y-O-U.
Yeah! 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 What are you excited about?
What do you mean?
What are you so happy about?
I won!
No, you lost!
I'm just YOU!
No, you lost! You're out! You're in!
No.
Yes.
No, out goes YOU! You're the loser!
You're the loser!
You're the loser!
No, you're the loser.
All right, so we are at season 5, episode 5, Louis Needs a Kidney. And who are you?
I'm Jeff Garlin.
And I'm Susie Essman. So here we go.
Yep.
I love this episode. You know, this episode is so simple. It's
So simple, and it's very
so
special
eloquent,
to me.
And
by
so
the way,
eloquent.
one of my favorite episodes to act in.
Yes, I can understand why. And
Yeah.
we'll get to that. So we start out, and Larry is calling Omar Jones, his private investigator, and his assistant or secretary says,
All right, Mr. David, what's this call regarding?
He'll know what it's about. I'm a client.
Got that, but what is the call regarding?
You know, to be honest, it's kind of personal.
I'm sure it is, but you can't speak with him until you tell me what this call is regarding.
But it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with him. I don't really want to tell you what it's about.
Okay, sir, you're gonna need to control your levels and tell me what this call is regarding.
Do me a favor. Tell me the details of your last conversation.
That's none of your business.
Exactly.
and that pisses Larry off to no end, and I don't blame him for that. You know, let me talk to the guy. It's not like he's the president of the United States. What's this call regarding? And then he ends up hanging up and having a fight with her. Next, we see he's locked his keys in his car, and he takes out a little flip phone. I love the dating of everything that we do here. This is 2005. And he calls you and tells you that he locked his phone, his keys in the car. Will you come and rescue him? Which you, of course, say, yes, of course I will. And you do. And he is going to get something to eat at Jack in the Box.
Right.
Not something I ever picture Larry eating, by the way.
Well, no, it's for comedic purposes.
I know.
And I remember we filmed this at, I believe on La Brea, there might be a Jack in the Box. That's where we filmed it. Yeah.
Have you ever been to a Jack in the Box, Jeff?
Oh, I'm most certain. But can I just ask you something? Why do you ask a question that's so dumb? Now, did I go to Jack in the Box in a lot? No. There was one period where I had an office at La Brea and Wilshire, and right next to my office building was a Jack in the Box. And so during that period, I frequented it quite often. Outside of there, I've maybe had Jack in the Box half a dozen times. So,
how many times do you think I've had Jack in the Box?
Well, I would put 0 in the category.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a snob, but
By
it
the
just
way, I have a
doesn't-
great Jack in the Box story. I'm not going to tell you the actor, but there was an actor I know who went into a voiceover audition for the commercial to be the voice of Jack in the Box. And so he does it. There's a lot of people there, and he goes in and he's doing it. He's doing it. And the guy from Jack in the Box keeps saying, "That's not the voice I hear. That's not the voice I hear." So the voice of Jack in the Box now, the big ping pong ball, whatever you have it, that's the guy who said, "It's not the voice I hear." So the guy from Jack in the Box, the voice he heard was his own voice in his own head, and he hired himself. There you go.
Oh, really? You're kidding me.
Yeah, no, it's a true story. Yep.
I picture, when you say Jack in the Box voice, I picture, what was his name? Benji from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Uh-huh.
So, you know,
the little guy?
Yeah, the little guy in the Jack in the Box.
You mean?
Herbie. Yeah.
Herbie. What's eating you, boy? Not happy in my work, I guess.
No.
Well, what do you want to do? I want to be a dentist. You know, molars and bicuspids. I have that whole thing memorized. I loved all the Rankin Bass Christmas specials. Loved them.
They were great.
Yeah.
All right, so he's at Jack in the Box, and they're closed. And the only thing is the drive-thru is open. So he stands behind the cars, and he walks up to the drive-thru, and they won't serve him.
Welcome to Jack in the Box. May I have your order, please?
Like, 2 Jumbo Jacks, French fries, and a Diet Coke.
Sir, are you in a car?
No.
Sir, this is a drive-through line. You have to be in a car to order.
What's the difference?
It's our policy. This is a drive-through line.
One second. Come on, I'm starving. Everything's closed.
That is a real thing.
Really?
Oh, that most certainly
That's
is.
bizarre.
By the way, I've heard stories. Drunk people, not Larry in this, always do that late at night. They walk in the space, or they've seen a line of cars and they cut in. Nope, it is. And there's a big sign at I've been to many a drive-through window.
I see that.
There's a big sign that says you must be in a car or something like that.
But that's one of those rules that's stupid to me.
No, it's not.
Why must you be? Why can't you walk up?
Because it's if they allow you to do that and something happens to you with another car, they can be sued.
All right. If it's a liability thing, I understand.
It is.
So Larry goes to a couple of cars and asks if he can get in
I
their
can't
car.
imagine why you'd think that's not a real rule. What's wrong with you?
Well, because I think it's like if I walk up to the ATM in the
Right.
drive-through, I'm allowed to use it.
In the drive-through?
No,
If
the
nobody else is
drive-through ATM.
around. Yeah, but if you know what? Do me a favor. You break your laws, not me. Go.
Okay. So he finally comes up to a guy, this guy Pete, and he says, yeah, sure, get in the car. And they're eating.
Who plays Pete?
Frank Whaley, who's a terrific
Frank Whaley,
actor.
who's wonderful, and he's a wonderful guy, and I so enjoyed working with him.
And,
All right.
I mean, he's one of these guys that you see his face and you're just like, oh, I've seen him in everything.
He's had great roles
Yeah,
in
he
a
works
lot
a lot.
of great limited series on TV, and also in so
Movies.
many great movies. Like,
Right.
he was a young guy actor,
Yeah.
and still works. Okay.
So he's just a very familiar
By the way, I'm going to
Face.
trademark that term, young guy actor.
young guy actor.
And of all the actors walking around, I'm a young guy actor. It'll be a club. Go.
So he and Pete are eating their fries and delicious. And then he says to Pete, so Pete, what kind of work do you do? And Pete, is fumbling a little bit. He's like, I was in the dental field. Worked closely with a dental hygienist for 8 months. But he's drawn to landscaping, I assume that was all improvised.
Yeah, of course it was.
And Larry sees some porn in his back seat, and he says, it's not his. And then all of a sudden, knock, 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 you're at the door, you're at the window, you show up.
And I scare them.
You scared them, yes. And next we know you're in the back eating fries as well. Of course you are.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, I'm eating actual sandwich.
A sandwich.
So I don't know how that happened, or maybe they had an extra one.
Can I
because
ask a
couldn't have walked through
totally ignorant question?
Yeah.
What kind of food does Jack in the, is it a burger joint?
It's like Burger King, but they probably have more of a selection than other places. I'll tell you why. Every time I see a Jack in the Box commercial, they're introducing a new product.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
probably 12 new products a year. And I don't know if they eliminate other products or they're experimenting, but it's always a new. Try our new.
You know
And
what,
that's what
Jeff?
the commercials are.
I never see Jack in the Box commercials, which makes me think that it's a West Coast thing.
I don't know.
I wonder if they're on the East Coast. I don't think so.
When I spent time in Chicago or Florida when I was growing up, I think there was Jack in the Box.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to research that.
No, we're not.
And
Do you want
are-
to Google it? Because I ain't Googling it.
maybe later.
Okay.
And then
that means it's not going to happen. You don't really care. Go.
I don't care that much unless they want to be a sponsor. And then you tell Larry that you have some bad news for him, and that Richard Lewis is, very sick. That which we've established,
he
and
already
he needs
knows
a new
he's sick.
kidney. He needs a new kidney.
He needs a new kidney. That's what I say. Yes.
And Larry says, is there a donor? And you say, no, he needs to find a match. And you see Larry's face is just horrified. And is he horrified because he's worried about his friend? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And next
The
we
look
see...
on his face tells you, am I going to have to give the kidney?
Exactly. And then we see him, he's at Leo's Deli with Lewis, and Lewis is looking horrible. He's
Right.
looking very sickly and, which was all makeup at that
during the
point.
season, after the season aired, people asked me if Richard Lewis is really sick.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Because whoever did his makeup, I assume it was Thomas.
Well, they made him
did
really
a great job.
gaunt and
Gaunt, and his eyes looked all bloodshot.
It had to have been. Yeah.
And he's looking sickly, and he's he doesn't have a donor and he's all upset about it. And then Larry asks him about his cousin, Louis Lewis.
So you asked this Louis Lewis? What did he say?
He says he wants to donate all of his organs after he dies, but not a minute before. Thank you, Louis Lewis. Doesn't help me any, schmuck. Well, I'm gonna have to get on that kidney list like everybody else. Shit. I mean, the only other option is if a good friend or a buddy comes through, then I'm golden.
And Louis Lewis, they establish he's a nutcase and he works at a Jack in the Box. Go figure. And he does want to donate all of his organs, but not until after he's dead, not a minute before. I understand that.
Right.
How do you feel about giving your kidney to somebody?
If it's somebody if you needed a kidney, no hesitation. How's that?
One of your kids, obviously, you know.
Yeah, but I'm saying even you, anyone who's close to me who would need a kidney and I'm a perfect match, I would do it in a heartbeat. Yep. No way would I not.
So Louis just says he needs to get on the kidney list, or if a buddy comes through.
Yeah, I know.
You know. And next we see Larry and Cheryl in bed. There's a lot of Larry and Cheryl in bed scenes I've noticed. Have you? A lot.
Yeah, this season in particular.
I think all the seasons. And Larry starts going through one of his Larry things.
The next time there's any sign of anything wrong with any of my friends, if I think they're going to be going into the hospital, any sign of anything, I'm just going to drop them like a hot potato. And you too. I mean, as soon as you get sick, I'm out. You know that, right?
Oh, well, no, I'm glad you're bringing it up. It's just,
Well, I mean, come on.
no, it's nice to know.
Yeah, and I'm giving you.
Although I thought that's what the whole deal was. It's one of the reasons you get married.
Normally that is the deal, but we're losing the sickness and health clause. I'm out if anything's wrong with you. And look, same for you. You go too. As soon as
I will.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't be around illness.
But for now.
It freaks me out. Okay.
Next time there's any sign of any of my friends being sick, I'm dropping them immediately. That goes for you too. I can't do this. And Cheryl kind of talks him into taking the test. That it's a nice gesture and that he should at least take the test. And then they start snuggling.
By the way, the gesture thing. By the way, at this point in my life, fuck gestures. Either you're doing something or you're not doing something. Gestures can suck my dick. There you go. Keep going.
So then they start to snuggle. Now, this sounds very familiar to me. Larry assumes the snuggle leads to sex. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't understand what's the advantage of a snuggle if it's not leading to sex. And then he grabs her ass and, the ass is part of my snuggle. The ass is a lever. And Cheryl's not happy about this. Now, I happen to be female, you're male, so we could have this discussion.
Right.
I have had this incident with my husband and with previous boyfriends where they only want to be affectionate when they want to have sex.
In general, you are completely 100% right.
Yes.
Me, I'm a thoughtful gentleman.
Not that my husband is not affectionate to me. He is, but certain kinds of affection, I always know that's where he's going.
Well, by the way, yes, and it was obvious in this episode where he was going. And to me, one of the big giveaways is the grabbing of the ass.
Exactly.
No, that's like a classic, if you will, in that area, the grabbing of the ass.
Grabbing of the ass always reminds me, my father used to always, kiss my mother and hug her and grab her ass. I remember that. And I always had this assumption, because they had a horrible marriage, I always had this assumption that they had hot sex, like that's what kept them together.
Because
sometimes
they were in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people have a horrible marriage, but they have a great sex. And yet later on in like a couple of years before my mother died, she told me out of nowhere, I didn't even ask her. She said to me, "Your father was a very selfish lover." So apparently.
Oh my God. That is just, I don't even know what to say to that.
So they didn't have great sex.
By the way, the only way that's funnier is if she told you he was a very gentle lover.
Yes, exactly.
That's
but
the
he was
only
a very
thing funny.
selfish lover.
That's
he was a very
too good.
selfish.
That's too good.
So now we are, Larry's in his office and he makes a phone call to Lewis, and Lewis's assistant picks up, played by
Mindy Kaling.
That's right.
That's when I first met her.
A very
Well,
young
it's one of her
Mindy
first
Kaling.
jobs in Hollywood.
Is that true?
Yes, yes. She was primarily a writer on The Office at that point, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it was before The Office. I think The Office had
this
first
was
started.
2005.
But she was great. I mean, in the episode, but also
terrific
to work with. And that's one, there's certain actors who do the show, who know the show, but they're a bit uncomfortable. I'm the one that helps them through that. That's like one of my jobs as a producer. The way I look at it, I've not been, the only job I've ever been assigned is in large scenes to please keep an eye on the actors on the monitor to make sure no one's,
I do find, though, Jeff, generally that comedians have an easier time than just
most certainly.
actors.
I'm just saying she was having a rough time, but I remember very distinctly helping her through it. That's all. It wasn't anything where,
And what happens? What happens is that she answers the phone and she says, "Can I speak to Richard?" And she says, "What is this regarding?"
Richard Lewis's office.
Larry David calling.
Sure, what's this regarding?
It's regarding his kidney transplant.
What?
It's regarding his kidney transplant.
Mr. Lewis is getting a kidney transplant?
What? What are you saying?
He didn't say anything to me about it.
You didn't know about this?
Oh my God.
He didn't tell you this? He didn't tell you that there was a problem with his kidneys?
No, he didn't tell me anything.
How could he not have told you about this?
I don't know, but he didn't tell me anything about this.
Oh, jeez. Well, you asked me what it was regarding.
I didn't know it was going to be about something like this.
And Larry says regarding his kidney transplant. And then she goes into, she didn't know he was having a kidney transplant, and she starts crying and she becomes hysterical.
Oh, by the way, this was very much a thin line for us because in general, I can think of the Heartbreak Kid. There are exceptions, and this clearly was one, where crying is not funny. I'm just saying, crying is not funny unless somebody, like in the Heartbreak Kid, like here, where it serves the story. But in general, crying is not funny, and dramatically, crying is not interesting. Being on the line of just about to break down is always interesting to watch, and as an actor, the bawling and all that stuff. So on this show, we were like doing different types of crying, not knowing, until post what we had.
And I'm trying to think if we've ever had any other crying.
I don't believe so. And by the way, here's a little side story. The number of times, I always sounds like I'm giving a lesson, and you know this. There is no difference between acting dramatically and comedically. Zero. Because it's up to the writer. And if you know the character, you just say the lines, you just say it, or you improvise it. And so we had people come in nervous, they'd put a spin on things. But one of the things that you were automatically not getting hired is if you started crying. And it happened at least a half a dozen times while we were casting the show that an actress came in and she went all out crying, and Larry had to stop her. And talk to me.
No, I just remembered one time when I was crying, when Oscar died.
Right. And he probably told you not to.
No. It was appropriate in the scene. I was crying in the scene. And that was because you guys, never gave him his Pinkberry.
Oh, the Pinkberry episode, which we haven't done yet.
No, that's much later.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. Well, that's a good the reason that worked was the contrast.
Right.
I should be upset. You're upset. We fucked it up. Right. Yes, it completely serves the scene. So if anyone's crying, it has to serve the scene. Because on its own, crying is not funny.
And apropos of what you said before, and we've probably said this before, but I'll just reiterate. when you're doing comedy, unless it's a very broad kind of physical comedy or something like that, you should not be thinking about being funny. You should be thinking about being in the
to
scene.
Me,
and it should be written funny.
The only times that I have failed comedically, the only times are when I've tried to be funny.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
I have probably a 10% success rate on trying to be funny. The other 90%, bomb, including on stage. If it doesn't come to me.
I don't think about being funny on Curb, especially because I so trust the setup. I so trust Larry's comedic, brain that I know that if he set it up, it's going to be funny.
But you trust me acting opposite you. And then also there's the comfort
level.
A comfortability or a comfortability. Yeah. Some words come hard to me now. I don't know why, by the way. But anyhow, being so comfortable on set also adds to.
That's right. So Mindy Kaling, she's hysterical, crying. She didn't know. And the next thing we know, and these scenes are always when Lewis shows up angry, they just make me laugh because he's so.
What did you do?
I so don't believe he's really angry in a certain way. Even what I mean? It's like
I love it.
It's funny angry. It's funny.
It's of course.
And Lewis shows up at Larry's office. What did you do to my assistant? And and Larry kind of calms him down by telling him he'll take the test. To which Lewis is quite nonplussed at that response. And he saying he would have leapt at the chance. And he should have said in the restaurant the other day that he would have taken the test. And then the phone rings, and it's somebody inquiring if Larry was at the Jack in the Box with Pete. We don't know what's coming up, but next we see him and with you at the police station, and you're about to do a lineup.
And by the way, this is downtown LA, wherever this lineup thing was, and there's sets built to look like a police. By the way, not only was it not just that area, the bullpen and the bench, that whole floor was designed like a police station. Like they could have filmed Hill Street Blues there or NYPD Blue, which they may have. I don't know. But
there are permanent sets like that. Like, for example, Law and Order. There's a permanent courtroom set down at Chelsea Piers where they shoot it.
Yeah, but it's a set.
It's a set.
Well, this is also a set, but it's an entire floor of what may have been.
Was it on a stage?
No, it was on a floor. The whole floor was actually a police station. I'm talking about the whole floor of a big office building. Was like a dark.
Not a literal police station.
No, but they may have filmed Bosch there. I don't know what they filmed there.
Yeah. And while you're sitting there waiting to do the lineup, Larry tells you that he's going to take the kidney test. And he says, why aren't you taking the test? You're his manager. You're his friend. And then it goes back and forth. You say to him, you're his oldest friend, and you are an employee of mine, he says to you. And then Omar Jones shows up, the private eye, and he's got a bone to pick with Larry about his receptionist. He upset his receptionist, and he had to talk her into staying, and Larry apologizes. And he's like, how's the adoption going? And Omar says, I'm going to have something for you soon. And they go in, you guys go in, and you do a lineup. And then at some point, you just say you changed your mind. You're going to take the test.
Mm-hmm.
And then you both point out number 2.
Oh, no, but wait. The guy, I don't know if he did Seinfeld before.
The cop?
The cop was...
very good.
Not only was he very good, he was killing Larry and I during that whole scene.
In what way?
He was just so fucking funny. And he played things straight like a cop, but it was hilarious the way he did it. Funny dude.
It's the importance of, it was a small role, but the importance of these small roles cannot be, overemphasized. I mean, it's the kind of thing that creates the whole.
Well, by the way,
piece.
We have had people, which we've discussed before, in small roles who are invited back in a much bigger role.
Yes.
I don't know if I ever told you this. It was about me and Mad About You. So I auditioned for Mad About You, and it was a pretty good scene, in one scene or a couple scenes. And they call my agent and they say, because they hired me, okay? Then they call my agent and they say, it's down to 2 lines. if Jeff wants to do it or not, we're still going to pay him top of show, which means the most money for that. So either way, he can stay home, come in to do the 2 lines. We're very embarrassed. And I said to myself, fuck it, I'm going to go do the 2 lines. Well, I do the 2 lines, which grows into a half a dozen lines for that episode. And the producers are saying, including Larry Charles, mind you, that, oh, we got something here. Next thing you know, I'm on the next 3 seasons, a recurring role of Marvin. I was even in the finale, but I'm saying from that little role where I said 2 lines and I put my ego aside, because I was working at that point, and then boom.
I got advice from Tom Hanks once told me, take whatever part you're ever given because you're going to be good in it and people are going to see you in it. It's just going to lead to other things. And I think that was very good advice.
Hey, he was in Bachelor Party.
Yes.
So he followed that.
So you guys
which I paid to see and kind of like.
You guys point out Pete, number 2, and you say it was 10:15. It was a late dinner. Was it a late night snack or was it a late dinner? Back and forth with that a little bit. And then
that was a lot of the laughing.
It was funny. And then the cop says to you, do you know who Pete is? And Larry says, well, I know he worked with a dental hygienist and did some landscaping. And apparently he's Peter the Torque or a couple of other names.
By the way, that guy improvised. And of course, every name that came out of his mouth, we laughed. Because you think about Peter the Torque.
It's Peter Torque.
Torque from the Monkees. But Peter the Torque, that's top of the game.
Yeah. And next thing we know, you guys are at the medical office waiting to take the test. And turns out you're both compatible. And the nurse comes over and you say,
Good night, nurse.
Good night.
It's just a saying.
I never heard of it.
It's an old one.
That's nice.
It is.
I know it is.
Do you?
Do you?
I do.
Good for you.
It is good for me.
Oh, you think so?
I know so.
I'm glad.
So am I.
That makes 2 of us.
So you say.
So I did.
Why did you go through this?
Well,
tell me about that scene.
Okay, it's actually something very interesting. I say to her, good night, nurse. And then she says, good night. We go back and forth at a fast pace.
In a very kind of surreal
yeah, but I want
way.
to say something. This is behind the scenes stuff. This is stuff you'd never know. So we improvise it. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. But Larry and I know there's something wrong with it. It's not kicking ass the way it should. Larry wrote that scene, and he would feed me a line, and I just said it. He would feed her a line. She just said it. Back and forth, and that was put together through editing, so you felt like we were going back.
That's very unusual.
Oh, but for the shoot, we've never done that before since. And the only time I've ever felt that is I'll be driving home and Larry will say, it would have been better written. And he was right. Certain scenes would have been better written. But that's rare. That happened like 2 or 3 times.
He has said, and I don't know the exact percentage, but something like 95% of the time, or maybe even 98%, the actor that is in the scene writes it better than he ever could. And maybe, 5% of the time he wishes that he had written it.
Right, without a doubt. But also, so this scene, and I took no affront to it, that my improvising, and obviously the guest actress who was great, but we went back and forth. He would literally feed me the line, and I'd say it very staccato, or very, staccato.
Deadpan.
Right? Deadpan. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. And then in post, it was put together like it was just being made up. I imagine somebody watching would go, wow, look at the way they're improvising, but no siree bop.
Okay, so then you're on the park bench with Larry, and you got to decide who's good. You're both a match.
By the way, not only one of my favorite scenes, but someone took a photo a set photographer took a photo of that scene and sent it to me, for approval. I guess I got my approvals, and I said I want a copy of that. So that's probably the most often thing that I autograph is the picture of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'd
love to see that. I haven't seen that.
Well, just picture the
that.
scene, and it's a really cool shot.
Yeah.
Of he and I, you know what it is? It's just he and I staring into space, and I saw it in the scene. So
I actually have some scenes of some pictures I've taken on set of you two doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Look at you and your lozenges.
Yes.
All right.
And then how are you going to decide who's going to give the kidney? Larry suggests bingo, and you're like, no way. It's like playing golf with Tiger Woods. You're not going to do it.
Which, by the way, the fact that I'm intimidated by him playing bingo
is hilarious.
Which is back to, obviously, an earlier episode. But, wow, that's funny.
Because he's such a goddamn good bingo player.
Yeah.
And then you say, doesn't he have a cousin? Lewis. And then you decide, let Lewis decide. Let Richard Lewis decide. It's the best way. And no campaigning. You're not going to campaign. No calling saying he's a lot thinner than I am. None of that stuff, which we know is neither of you are going to stick to that.
Without a doubt, yeah.
And then Larry shows up at Lewis's office and he apologizes to his assistant, Mindy Kaling. And she says, oh, he's on the phone with Jeff Garlin. And Larry says, what is it regarding? And she says she doesn't know. But we know.
I'm doing my massaging.
We know you're campaigning.
Yep.
And then she starts crying again, and he comforts her, and he starts stroking her hair.
It's all right. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm sure he was going to tell you. Yeah, no, don't worry. There. It's okay.
Leo, what are you doing?
What?
What was that?
What are you talking about?
What the hell, man? Why'd you touch my hair?
I was consoling. I was consoling you.
I wasn't consoling.
Touching hair is part of my consolation routine.
No, it's really weird. You're being really inappropriate.
What? Inappropriate?
Yeah,
Are you crazy?
Hey,
No.
what is this?
He was touching me in a
Again?
really weird way.
She's crazy. I was consoling her.
He was coming on to me.
Oh, I wasn't coming on.
Sociopath?
I was consoling her and I touched her hair.
It was coming on to me.
Oh, that's just such baloney.
I'm leaving.
I was consoling her. I touched her hair. She
I'm
knew that's
leaving.
coming on. She's nuts.
And she was like, oh, wait a minute, man. What are you doing? And he's like, I'm consoling. Touching hair is part of my consolation routine. But
Which,
she's like, you're being very
that line
weird.
Is awesome.
Yes.
And by the way, frankly, watching it wasn't unsettling, but it was a bit weird.
It was a bit weird. Absolutely, it was.
Yeah.
I felt if Larry David, who is my very close friend, was doing that to me, I would feel like it was weird.
Yeah, go, what the fuck are you
Just saying.
doing? Yeah.
And she was like, you're being weird. And then Lewis comes out. And then she tells Lewis that Larry was coming on to her. And then she leaves. And then Lewis is confused. Is she leaving or is she quitting? And, goes on to, did you get the news? You get the choice. And Larry starts going, I'm considerably older than him.
Everything
he's bigger,
he said.
So it's like a big, hefty kidney.
Right.
You can start drinking again, he tells him. There's a lot about me you don't know about, things I did right after college. And Lewis is just like, you know what? You decide. Flip a coin or play eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You decide. And then Larry goes over in his head, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, figuring out which one, how, if he starts, how he's got the whole thing figured out. He's got a plan.
Yeah. He's going to cheat. He's going to prep.
He's going to prep.
Mo.
Exactly. And next we're at our house, and it's you and Larry and Marty Funkhauser.
Bob Eyesight. But by the way, before we begin, Bob he doesn't do this often, but he was the funniest straight man. And
totally.
he's the one who held the scene together.
It's interesting because having watched it, both you and Larry are hilarious in this and the jumping up. But it is Einstein's scene. It's his scene.
No, hold on. It's Einstein and your scene.
Not me as much as.
No, by the way, let me just say, this is one of our favorite scenes to have filmed ever. We laughed the whole time.
So hard.
And by the way, I know it was difficult in post to pick what to use, and Larry and I are really funny in this scene.
Yes.
But we're eclipsed by Bob, and your entrance, which you'll go over now, is sublime.
First it's flip a coin. And then they decide, now Larry wants to do eeny meeny. Now we know he wants to do eeny meeny because he's already worked out the eeny meeniness of it.
Right.
And first of all, just the whole idea that you're doing eeny meeny miny mo to decide who was going to have serious surgery of giving up a kidney. I mean, this is an organ and it's eeny meeny miny mo. It's too bizarre.
Yeah.
So Marty says, I really admire you guys, an unbelievable act of friendship. I just wish I could. And Larry says, well, you haven't taken the test. And he said, I don't think I'm a match. I love how he does that. I don't think I'm a match.
But by the way, Bob getting out of it is so matter of fact. and
yeah, just like
he doesn't-
I'm not a match.
But by the way, he doesn't
no
even give us a
discussion.
chance to
No.
argue with him.
No,
None.
no discussion.
No.
And who wants to be Enie? And Larry says, I'll be Enie. And you agree. And then he starts to get suspicious. Why do you agree to be Enie? To start with Enie? And whatever, you work that through.
No,
and
I
then-
say, fine, I'll be Enie. And then he's suspicious of that.
That's right.
So he takes Enie back.
He takes Enie back, and it's Enie, meanie, miny, mo.
'Cause he thinks
my
the
mother
game-
says, right, he thinks he thinks everybody's, planning like diabolical like he
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
My mother says to pick this one, and out goes Y-O-U, and it lands on Larry, and you both jump up. You both jump up. It's like so happy. You give the kidney, and it is what to me. It's one of the funniest scenes that you guys have ever done. I really
And
think
by the
so.
way, we begin screaming at each other, you. And by
no,
the
you.
way, in filming this, Larry lost his shit more times than I can.
I remember.
Every time I said you to him, he's on the floor. And so this one took a minute for him to recover. I laughed too, but once he started the festival and it
Now,
became
let me
a-
ask you a question, Jeff, because I'm trying to remember. Was it in the outline? I don't think it was in the outline that you both jump up at the same time like that.
It had to have been, yes.
You think it
that's-
was?
Without a doubt. Because
Okay.
that's a story point. So, yes, we've improvised some story points, but that one in particular, that would be too weird if we both jumped up. Because in his outline, there would be a conclusion on that moment, and he would say, Jeff wins, Larry wins. They both win. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe it was
right.
discussed on
But
set. I don't remember.
what I recall was, I think the outline did say that you both think that you won.
Right.
But it didn't. But I don't think it said in the outline that you both jump up simultaneously like that. I think that was improvised.
No, he doesn't write things like they.
Right.
Yes, that was improvised.
So that's my point. That
Yes.
was just that
Yes.
beautiful
How we
moment.
Did, as you know, on our show, it's not what we're doing because that's already set. It's how we're doing it. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I come in and he says to me, I was like, what are you guys doing?
Hold on. Take a step back. You know, Bob is also agreeing with me. Bob, Marty
Yes, that
Funkhauser.
Larry is
Yeah.
it.
So when you come in, there's no where you go, no one's expecting. It's not surprising, but we're not expecting. So you're like, you want an explanation, and what do? You say, oh.
Well, Larry says to me, "Eeny, meeny," and I was like, that means you're it. And then I say,
You're not giving your fucking kidney. What if one of your kids needs a kidney one day? You're gonna give a kidney to Richard Lewis? No.
You'll give it to him.
I might not be the match, Larry. He needs his kidney, number one. Number two, he's a fat fuck. He can't even survive the surgery.
How
You're
do you know
healthy
he can't
and thin.
survive the surgery?
You're healthy and thin. You're giving the kidney. End of discussion. Moot point.
there's no way Jeff's giving. What if one of your kids needs your kidney and you're not giving a kidney to Richard Lewis? He needs his kidney, number one. And two, he's a fat fuck. He can't survive the surgery. So that's that. And you're like,
Yeah.
with that face.
Well, by the way, that I was really not till later very upset that Larry pointed out to me that was the favorite thing that I do, because I was never aware of it. For 6 seasons, I was never aware that I was doing that. And then Larry said to me one day, my favorite thing that you do in scenes is when, and he imitated it.
Yeah.
And then every time after I did it, I was conscious. And so
really?
think about this,
Interesting.
6, 7 years, had no idea I was doing it, because I don't like being aware of what I'm doing unless there's
when
a
it's
problem.
on an unconscious level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I say, you're healthy and thin. You're giving the kidney. End of discussion. Done. No more discussion.
But also, the way Larry leaves that scene is really funny. Because
Yeah.
he's like, he's trying to get a change of mind from you in the most half-assed way. And then he comes back and takes the quarterback
Takes the coin. Yeah.
from Bob. Yeah.
So then he's home with Cheryl, explaining to her, out goes Y-O-U. And Cheryl agrees also. You're it. You're out. You have to give the kidney. And he's like, if you're playing with 2 people, yes, you're the winner. I'm out. He's in. And he's like disparaging of Cheryl. I grew up with Eeny Meeny. You don't know Eeny Meeny as well as I know Eeny Meeny. And then he goes into a whole thing how it's unfair that he took care of himself all these years. He should have been smoking cigarettes and eating crap, et cetera, et cetera. And Cheryl says,
for this moment.
For this moment. And Cheryl says, maybe this is why you were saved when you were drowning. And Larry's point is, if he wants to get so involved, meaning God, why doesn't he just fix his kidney while he's sleeping? And why go through the whole drowning and the saving and, you know, and Cheryl starts massaging his shoulders and he grabs her ass and wants to turn it into consolation sex.
Yeah.
And she's not, and Larry's like, sex is the ultimate form of consolation and she's not having it. And then while they're, you know,
the magic of being married.
Yes.
As opposed to you both can't wait to touch each other.
Yeah, well, things change.
I think that calms down for a man, but it's pretty much eliminated for a woman. And I actually believe...
Jeff,
no, hold on. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's eliminated unless there's a whimsy on the woman's part. Like, okay, today I want it. I'm going to go get it.
So you're saying women control the whole thing?
Oh, they most certainly do. When you are in a relationship, I don't care who you are. I mean, obviously there's exceptions, but yeah, women control the whole sex festival. Sorry, they do.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's my point. Keep going.
And then the news comes on, and the news says Peter Hagen robbed Jack in the Box, and the victim of robbing the Jack is Lewis. And he's in a coma. He's not expected to survive. And Larry jumps up for joy. And that's
end
the
of
end.
the episode. Very
I love
funny.
this episode. Again, it's a very simple but beautiful
but also,
episode.
It's self-contained, yet has everything to do with the season. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it's set up a lot.
Because I told you Wandering Bear had nothing to do with anything else. One of my favorite episodes. That's like in the middle of a season, sort of like sticking out. And you go, wow, that's a great episode. This one's equally, if not better, but yet this one's about the storyline.
This one is a lot to do with the storyline that's coming up. Because from here on in, we're dealing a lot with Lewis's kidney.
And by the way, I think this is the only freeze frame that ever ended the show. You know, like Hawaii, the Naked Gun did jokes on the freeze frame. And everybody froze and the coffee poured over the cup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that came from originally, if I'm not mistaken, because I have watched the first season, Hawaii 5-0. Like they laugh, freeze. And it's always funny. Yes. So a freeze frame ending is kind of like Columbo always did it.
Yeah.
It was a very much 70s, 60s and 70s thing to do. And so for us to do it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And also him in the air, freezing on him in the air.
Yeah. And that is Lewis Needs a Kidney.
Yeah. I love
Whether Lewis
that.
actually gets the kidney will be seen in future episodes.
That's right. But you're leaning it towards a direction, but you're creating mystery. But
we'll
then
be
again,
back.
Whoever's listening to the show knows what happened. We're not dealing with people who are listening to this.
I wonder if anybody's listening to the show and just deciding for the first time to start to watch Curb and go from the beginning.
Well, by the way,
I have had many people tell me, by the way, and this is like in the pandemic especially, many people tell me that that's what they did in the pandemic. They went back to the first season and they watched straight through.
This is why my argument is, and I love HBO, and I wish we had more people had eyes on HBO, but this is why I'm saying if we could be on Netflix, how it would change everything. Now, I told you, I don't want to be more famous, but I love when the show's more successful. That really thrills me. And that's how people would discover it.
More people laughing.
They're doing Suits right now, big bowl of Suits.
The more people laughing, the better off it is.
Yes.
So we will see you next time, everybody.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening.